Work closely with this community to resolve the negative impacts on our neighborhoods. I have signed the no-fly pledge. I have already supported in writing Ted Lieu's joint resolution that petitions the federal government to take action on this issue. And I'm the only candidate in this race that Marty and Joan Rubin have endorsed. They're the founders of Concerned Residents Against Airport Pollution. Santa Monica Airport has been a major 53rd District issue since Mike Gordon, and I'm ready, able, and willing to carry on the fight. Now, regarding marijuana, do I support the initiative? Emphatically, yes, I do. We must regulate and tax marijuana as we do alcohol and tobacco. The war on drugs has failed. It wastes unimaginable tax dollars. Our drug laws breed crime, violence, corruption, disrespect for law. They erode our civil liberties, they overcrowd our prisons, and they even create environmental damage in our forests. Our state can no longer afford drug prohibition. The State Board of Equalization estimates that we could gain $1.4 billion in revenues if we taxed it, and I'd rather see that money go to smaller class sizes, adult daycares, rainy day funds. That's my position. Thank you.
Next up is Democrat Betsy Butler. Which questions?
18 and 23?
18 and 23. 18, California State Senate Bill 810, the single-payer universal health care bill, has already passed the state Senate and assemblies twice, only to be vetoed by Governor Schwarzenegger. Would you support a single-payer universal health care bill for California? Number 23, will the new environmental regulations passed by Sacramento help, hurt, or both with respect to job creation or loss in our state?
Thank you. I am proud, very proud, to have the endorsement of former Senator Sheila Kuehl as well as current Senator Mark Leno, the people who've been working the hardest and have carried the bill, the single-payer bill, and of course I will be supporting that. When I talk about health care reform, though, we are obviously dealing with a national situation that will transpire over the next couple of years. But when I discuss health care, I also talk about elder care. I believe there's a lot of work that needs to be done in this issue. It's a coming crisis. We know there's a health care crisis right now. There's an elder care crisis right behind it. Having dealt with Alzheimer's in my family and my father, it's a very, very interesting and hard situation to go through, and it's coming very, very soon, and we need to prepare for it now. With regard to the green economy, AB 32 is under attack. There are 2 Texas oil companies who have qualified enough signatures to have AB 32 stopped until jobs apparently grow in the state. I find it offensive that another state could dictate our laws here in California, and they are the exact people who don't want me to get elected because they know I will be working so hard to make sure that this state stays on the right track. And that means we need to think more about how we live our lives, how we use our energy sources here, and what we're doing to the planet. We have to get off gas, we have to get off coal. Particulates are killing us, and the sooner we do it, the better. I will be a huge champion for investment in new renewable technologies. We all know about algae. There's so many more algae out there that we need to invest in, and once they have been created, we need to implement them far and wide. We need to diversify our energy sources as soon as possible so that we do the healthy thing for all of us, which dovetails right back in to healthcare and making sure that we're doing the best that we can as the citizens of California.
Next up is Republican Nathan Mintz.
Questions 2 and 12, please.
All right. So, question number 2. The unions have a stranglehold on Sacramento. How do you plan to deal with the unions, and can you, for the record, state, if you do get elected, what your plan will be, and what unions have endorsed your campaign and why? Number 12 is the previous one about the green movement creating jobs. What do you see as the best ways of incentivizing industry and customers to get the maximum number of local, well-paying jobs that increase the state economy? Tax breaks, pushing the aerospace industries to do more than military hardware, new technologies, better education, etc. What have you done to better understand this issue? visited an aerospace lab, learned about green technology, etc.
All right, so in terms of what unions have endorsed my campaign, does National Taxpayers Union count? No. Sorry, I had to throw that bad joke out there. So the issue here isn't really necessarily dealing with the unions. I think this is an issue of balancing public employee power and rights to collective bargaining against the need for government to align with the common good. Right now, our priorities are a little messed up. We're paying retired prison guards $20,000 a month in pension, and we're throwing elderly people out of nursing homes. That's frankly a little screwed up. So I think we need to put some steps in place to fix that. The first thing we need to do is curb that influence politically of the unions, and we do that through paycheck protection, which over 40 other states have done, i.e. make it so that if before you use union dues for political purposes, you have to ask the members' permission. I would balance that by banning corporations from financing financing elections as well. So I'm the first Republican you're going to hear say that. We need to make state election law consistent with federal law, so that means no union or corporate contributions. We also need to reduce the cap on corporate contribution sizes. We also need to address the pension crisis. We do that by addressing its worst abuses, and like spiking, industrial retirement corruption, caps. We need to fix the double dipping problem. There's a million ways to do this, and basically we also need to, I think, cap pensions at the governor's salary. And finally, we need to reinstate administrative discretion and give bosses back control over hiring and firing and what happens. In terms of creating jobs, I've been in aerospace here my whole career. I had the pleasure of working on space-based solar power as one alternative energy source, and one of the things that actually decided that made us decide not to make it work for Raytheon was the fact that we couldn't make it work economically in this state. So we need to change the tax incentives so that those jobs can actually come here and not go, and those green jobs won't be in other states. Thank you.
Next up is Democrat Peter Thottam. Which questions would you like to address?
Sure, Brian. I'll do number 6 and number 25.
Number 6, how can the state and federal governments encourage business and job formation? Number 25, what forms of state or federal tax reforms are indicated during this economic downturn?
It's about jobs. It really is about jobs. The Bureau of Labor Statistics now puts LA County's official U6 unemployment rate, which is the largest, broadest gauge of unemployment, at 22.6%. Those are people who are currently unemployed, receiving benefits, working part-time, or have just fallen off the rolls. What is California going to do to create job growth? I've got a couple of ideas. I've only got a minute here, so I'll go through 3 of them. One is using something called the single sales factor approach for assessing business taxes. It's a major reason that California businesses are penalized here and don't set up shop here, instead choose to go to Nevada or Arizona or other states. I would work to change that, to encourage businesses to invest capital here and hire people here. I'd also encourage a new hire tax credit beyond what was enacted last year, pushing for greater temporary tax incentives focused on small businesses to create California jobs. A Tobin tax. I would encourage legislation that taxes financial transactions in a way that's not done currently. This could create as much as $2 billion that I would then push for use in job creation programs and vocational training programs in high schools and in community colleges throughout the state. Okay, the budget crisis. Just in the interest of time, revenues are $89 billion. Expenses this year will be $120 billion. How do you close that gap? It's made difficult by Prop 98, which mandates 40% for K-12 public education. There's another 14% for higher education. Solutions. Close the Prop 13 commercial property tax loophole. It's huge. It is enormous. And it costs the state anywhere from $3 to $5 billion annually in potential revenues. 2, prohibit corporations from using tax credits to offset more than their 50% of their taxes. I'm out of time. The prison industrial complex is the final component. Scale that back, repeal AB 900. That could save as much as $32 billion over the next 10 years. Thank you.